Honda Navi, Honda Grom. Both very similar, both part of Honda's minimotos, both in the same, they're not in the same price range, but both under $5,000 easily. What's the differences? What's the similarities? Which one should you get? We're going to talk about that. I own both. I've had the Navi for over a year. I've had the Grom for about a month. We'll kind of talk about why I'm selling the Navi, why I bought a Grom. We'll come back to that, but for now, let's kind of go through what the specs are. Here's a chapter list right here, right there, somewhere, of kind of what the major points are. We'll go over engine, suspension, brakes, seat height, whatever. For the record, for some of the shots that you'll see, I'm 6'2", on the heavier side now. I'm about 230 or 240 pounds. And I fit on both, and we'll show you kind of what that looks like too. But let's dive into it. All right, real quick, this is my 2022 Honda Navi. Honda just re-released the 2023 versions, and as far as I can tell and read, there is nothing different. It comes in one of 4 colors. There is grasshopper green, which is this nice lime green kind of color, a ranger green, which is like a forest green, nut brown, which aside from being one of the best stock color names out there, is just a dark brown, and then the last one is red. It doesn't get a fun adjective on it. It is red. Navis start at $1,807, but all of the minimotos in Honda's lineup have $300 in destination and freight charges added, so realistically $2,107 is what a Navi starts at. Real brief overview, it is a scooter in motorcycle form. That is how I would sum it up. Key features, twist and go, lots of storage, and a cheap price point. Alright, this is my 2023 Honda Grom ABS. Originally it had Pro White body panels, which is an ABS only trim, and then I changed it to this matte black metallic. It also comes in a cherry red and a silver for the 2023 edition. 2022s came in a cool blue color as well. Out the door, well, your prices are $34.99 for a non-ABS version and $37.99 for an ABS version, and then you have that same $300 destination charge for about $4,100 out the door, or $3,800. Price is important for a lot of people, and a Grom's essentially, not quite, but essentially twice the price of a Navi. You get a lot for that extra money. You get fuel injection, you get an LED headlight, you get an electronic dash, you get 5 speeds. You get quite a bit more, a little bit better fit and finish, a little bit better quality, but is that worth it to you? We're going to walk through all the different features of each one and kind of compare them more side by side. All right, let's talk meat and potatoes. Engines. On the Grom, you have a 124cc horizontal engine, pretty classic Honda design. Electric start, which both have, and it has 5 speeds for the 2022 and 2023 model years, which is a jump up from 4 speeds. This engine puts out, I believe, 9 where's my notes? I wrote this down. Okay. Yes, this engine puts out 9.7 horsepower and 7.7 pound-feet of torque. Big difference, though, is you do have the 5 speeds, and you can't really see it, but it is fuel injected. There's no carburetor to mess with. It means it has an ECU instead of a CDI control box. Means it runs a little bit cleaner, and you actually get better gas mileage out of this. Okay, let's compare that to the Navi. You're looking at a bunch of plastic here, and that is because the engine is actually mounted to the swing arm and is hiding back there under some flaps. It is 109 cc's. That puts out 7.8 horsepower and 6.6 pound-feet of torque. Quite a bit less. Well, not about 1 horsepower less. Sorry, no, 2 horsepower less than the Grom, but when you're talking these numbers, it's 20% less. So that is a significant amount. Big thing with the Navi is it is carbureted. You have a carburetor right here. Some love carbs for the simplicity. Some hate carbs because they're old and they're finicky. You have just a simple fan cooling the engine a little bit, and then let's pop over to this side. You have a Kickstarter for reasons, I guess. And then this is actually a CVT transmission. There's no gears to change. You have 2 different driven pulleys, I guess. Yeah, they could be pulleys that a belt rides between, and they expand and contract, and the belt rides up and down on grooves. So basically you twist the throttle and you go. You don't have to change gears. You don't have to do anything, which is very typical of a scooter. And like I said, we're going to keep coming back to that, but it is a little bit of a scooter here. So there's another view of the engine hiding up in there. Air intake's right here. Yeah. Okay. On the Grom's cockpit, we got a digital dash, big, nice, bright speedo. There's a shift light up here, which is kind of cool. Gear position indicator, average fuel mileage, and then there's a couple trip meters on here. You have your tachometer running across the top, and then fuel gauge on the side. Has a little clock that I haven't set yet. And then the rest is pretty standard motorcycle. Brake, kill switch, start. You have your brake fluid reservoir because these are disc brakes. We'll get to that when we talk to wheels. Clutch. You have your high and low headlight, horn, and turn signals. Pretty standard motorcycle cockpit, but you have a lot of features in this dash that you don't get with a lot of entry-level motorcycles, such as gear position and that shift light, which is pretty cool. Right, over on the Navi, things are a little bit different. We have analog speedometer with no tachometer, a brights and turn signal lamp, a manual odometer, and a very small gas gauge. And your key goes into the headlight bucket there. Electric start, stop. Notice there's no brake reservoir. That's because we have disc brakes here. And then on the other side, brights. You have a choke lever because it's carbureted once again. Turn signals and a horn underneath. And then this is a parking lever, or a parking brake lever. There's no clutch on the Navi because it's a CVT and twist and go. So this is let's see if I can do this with my wrong hand. A parking brake. You can convert this to a left-hand rear brake if you want, but mods are kind of something we'll get to here in a little bit as well. Okay, wheels, tires, brakes. On the Grom, we have 12-inch cast wheels, front and rear, with a little bit wider rubber on them. The tires that came on it are a fairly standard scooter tire size and are pretty popular, and you can get a lot of options for that. For brakes, we have disc brakes, front and rear. I believe it's 220 in the front and 190 in the rear, attached to some Nissan calipers, and they work extremely well. No complaints from that setup there. On the Navi, we have a 12-inch front wheel and a 10-inch rear wheel. These are a stamped multi-piece wheel, and they're a little bit lower quality. The tires are MRF Nilo Rip Zapper Fs. Geez. I've never heard of this brand or this tire before I bought my Navi, which is, I mean, it is what it is. They have drum brakes on them, front and rear, which is a little bit old school, but when a bike is this light, you don't really have to worry about, a huge amount of stopping power, but I know some people will complain about drum brakes. Specifically at the rear of it is this little 10-inch, and it is a weird size. I've heard a lot of people having trouble finding replacement rubber, just because of how bizarre that size is. I don't remember off the top of my head what it is, but it's a little bit of a goofy one compared to the Grom with its pretty normal size tires. While we're here, might as well talk about headlights. The Grom has an LED headlight for 2022 and 2023. It might have had that before, I don't know, but I know these 2 years definitely do. And the Navi is rocking a normal standard halogen light. It is powered by AC current off of the direct output out of the stator, which is fine. It works fine, but it means that your headlight only runs when it's running, and it means that it's dependent a little bit on what RPM your motor's at. And it also means that it's a little bit more complicated to swap over to an LED headlight, because that's a popular aftermarket mod. So definitely designed to a price point. Well, was designed in India at a price point in 2015 when it was released, or whenever it was. But just a little interesting quirk about that headlight, though, is that it is AC, which is more reminiscent of like a dirt bike or a pit bike setup than a typical motorbike setup that would run off of DC. One of the questions we see all the time, Reddit, Facebook groups, whatever, is, I'm a big guy, I'm 6 foot whatever, and I weigh whatever. Is this bike too little for me? Like I said in the intro, I'm 6'2". These are small bikes, but as far as riding position goes, they're extremely comfortable. Both of them are. The Navi has about a 30-inch seat height. You do have some room on the seat where you can scoot back if you want to, but there is a little bit of a shallow scoop here. And I feel like I fit just fine. If I go full lock, there's a little bit of contact there, but nothing that I would really consider uncomfortable. Bike weight for this is 234 pounds. Tried to get both bikes back in the same position. I don't know how successful I was with that, so sorry. Grom is about the same size. I would actually say it feels slightly smaller than the Navi, actually. The wheelbase is about 3 inches shorter, and the seat height feels about an inch shorter. Officially on Honda, they both list them both at 30-inch seat height, but my wife can put her feet down on this, and she can't on the Navi, so it feels a little bit lower. I could be wrong, but it does seem lower to us. Same thing though, comfortable triangle, almost hits my thighs on each way. But I'm 6'2" and I fit. It doesn't mean I don't look goofy, but I fit. Both bikes have passenger pegs on them. There's no way in hell at my size that I would fit a passenger on here unless they were like 80 pounds and 5 foot nothing, which is not going to happen. So for me instead, I use the nice flat seats on both of them just to scoot back a little bit because I am a bigger dude. Alright, I want to give you a little bit better idea of the size comparison. So from the front, both pretty similar. I have the front wheels kind of lined up at the same spot, but then we go to the back here, and the Navi is actually a little bit longer. If we go and look at them from the rear, the Grom has, a nice slim silhouette running all the way through, where the Navi is kind of chunky. The stock exhaust sticks really far out, kind of annoying, especially because it's exhaust plus heat shield plus whatever. And then on this side, the center stand on the Navi sticks out a little bit too, but a little bit wider booty, especially because I have a rack on there. But tank size, Navi's a little bit skinnier compared to the wide part of the Grom. One thing I haven't talked about yet, 0.9 gallons on this tank and 1.6 gallons on this tank. I've been getting about 80 miles to the gallon on the Navi. That gets me about 70, 75 miles tops. On the Grom, I haven't actually run through a full tank yet. Right now I'm averaging about 100 miles to gallon, so that'd be 150, 160 miles on that tank. Size-wise though, they're very similar. In my mind, the Navi should be smaller than the Grom because it's more scootery, less motorcycle-y, but looking at them side by side, man, the Grom just really is just a hair smaller than the Navi is. So one of the things that the Navi absolutely has going for it is storage. I forget how many liters is in there, but you can fit 24 cans of beer in this little storage box underneath. If you don't like the storage box, you can take it out and you have kind of a little hole in the frame right there. It also has a fairly substantial size box right here, kind of above where the engine is. Your battery's right here, and it comes with an okay toolkit. You can fix a lot of things on this bike with just the toolkit. So a lot of storage on the Navi, which is great compared to none on the Grom. There's room underneath the seat for a toolkit that it doesn't come with. You have to buy it separately, and room under the seat for like your instruction manual or user manual and like your registration. There's no little cool cubbies or anything like that. So I was editing the video. This is a couple hours later in the day. And I realized I kept referencing mods and then didn't actually ever talk about them really in the video much. So I need to do that because I think it's a big part about both bikes. The Navi, there's some stuff you can do to it. You know, you can do bars, grips, headlight and DC conversion, LED turn signals, variator, clutch, roller weights, contra spring, rear shock, and an intake and an exhaust. And the exhausts are still wildly expensive for the Grom. And for the Navi. And that's kind of it. You can paint it, but the aftermarket support for the Navi it's just came into its second year of being released. In North America, at least, it's not there. So if you're looking at the bike as like I'm going to do some crazy things with it, modding wise, I mean, the Navi mod scene is pretty small still, very, very small still. But when you compare that to the Grom, the bike's been established since, when did it come out? 2015, 2014, something like that. It's had time to mature. Granted, this is now the third generation of it, and the parts are a little bit different, but it's still had a much larger mod scene. I've done quite a bit to mine already, and I still have a bench full of more parts. And there's even more I could do after I'm done with this pile and things I still need to buy. I think the build series will end up being probably 15 to 20 videos long once we're done with everything. So if you're looking to buy a bike and not have it be a project where, you have an end dream, Navi might be a good choice. If you're looking to do a bike where like you can pretty much constantly be tinkering with it, Grom's a good choice there too. And don't get me wrong, you don't have to mod a Grom if you don't want to. You don't have to mod a Navi, clearly. But if that's one of the reasons why you're looking for a bike is because you also want a project, you want something to do with your hands, whatever, I think the Grom kind of wins in that regard. All right, next clip will be me going for a ride and kind of describing some of my final thoughts. So enjoy.
Okay. Well, that is the physical... Man, I left my glove over here. The physical differences that are kind of between the two bikes. And it is a lovely 40-degree sunny day. You may notice the snow outside of my garage. But not on the road. So I haven't been able to ride much this week, so we are going to go for a ride on the Grom. So I'm still not used to the sound of that airbox cover. Oh man, my battery is dying on my helmet. That's not good. Hopefully we still have some time to talk though. We'll see. Okay. So we talked a lot. We've talked a lot about the differences physically between the bikes. But we haven't talked about who I think each bike might be kind of suited for. I think the best way that I've come up with to kind of narrow it down as to, person A should buy this bike, person B should buy this bike is, are you looking to do motorcycling as a hobby primarily? Or are you looking to do motorcycling and buy a minimoto as a practical means of transportation? I think if you are looking to do this as a hobby, the Grom is the way to go. It is more expensive. It has a bigger aftermarket support. You can get a lot more random parts for it. And it is a motorcycle. You shift gears. You have to use a clutch. All of that. I think if you were looking for a motorcycle as a practical means of transportation, of getting around town, I think the Navi makes more sense. It is cheaper. You can store more on it. You turn it on, you twist, and you go. And it's easy like that. There are some more complications with carburetors versus fuel injected. You can't leave gas in there for ages at a time and expect it to just run and work. But it makes a lot of sense as just a commuter. My helmet's still on? Yeah, okay, we're still on. Let's see. Talked about mods. Top speed is different. The Grom apparently has a top speed of 59 compared to the Navi's 51 or so. There are people that have modded Navis to go much faster than that. I've seen people do 60s, but they're changing out everything. And if you're changing out everything at that point, why are you not buying a proper motorcycle with more aftermarket support than what the Navi currently has, But in this, a 59 mile an hour top speed versus a 50 mile an hour top speed isn't going to make a ton of difference in a lot of scenarios. You're not going on the highway with either one. Maybe a 45 mile an hour freeway, there's a difference, but for 35 mile an hour city roads, they're pretty indistinguishable from a top speed. I think really what it boils down to is, do you want the things that come with a motorcycle, or do you want to just get around on a small, efficient vehicle? If you want shifting clutches, gears, disc brakes that come on a standard motorcycle, yeah, Grom's for you. If you want storage and zippiness and you want to throw it on the back of your RV and toot around campgrounds to go get wood, the Navi makes so much sense. And then one last final note before my helmet battery dies, because that's what's recording audio right now, is the Navi is fun. It has a giggle factor when you ride it for sure, but I never, aside from like the first couple times I went out on it, I never wanted to go out and ride it for fun. It was, I took it to the store, or I commuted to work on it, or something like that. I never just hopped on it to go for a ride after kind of that initial fun period where I'm finding the Grom I want to ride. You can push it through gears and redline it and try and race it, for lack of a better term. And I just never had that on the Navi. I never quite fell in love with it. It's a tool. It's a scooter. I've owned another scooter in the past, and it felt incredibly similar to that. So I think that is, as I just tool around in my cul-de-sac, that is where I'm going to end this today. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. I have the Navi for probably about another month or so, so if there's anything you want to see that's, not a top speed run or anything like that, because it's, the Grom's faster, let me know. And I will answer comments per usual, and yeah, so that's where we'll end it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this didn't end up being too long, and we will see you later. Where's neutral? There's neutral. Oh, that wasn't that bad to find. All right. Bye.